Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan and Ted Dabrowski from wirepoints.com. And Ted, I remember back in 2003, Rod Blagojevich had a great idea. Let's borrow $10 billion so we can start to pay down those unfunded pension liabilities. And he sold some big government Republicans that are still around running units of government on the idea. He wouldn't have passed it in the Illinois Senate without the support of Kirk Dillard, who's now the chairman of the RTA. Wouldn't have passed in the Senate without Dan Cronin, who's now the DuPage County Board chairman. Yeah, they never go away here. All good government Republicans, right? $10 billion borrowing deal to address the $43 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. And 15 years later, after piling on some more debt for us to finance, because, that's who finances it, not the bond fairy, taxpayers do. Now the unfunded pension liability of the state is what? $130 billion?
Yep.
So we're taxing and spending and borrowing and taxing and spending and borrowing. And it's going so well that Tiny Dancer has introduced a new plan to do what? Rod Blagojevich Redux. $10 billion borrowing to deal with the city's unfunded pension liability. Good idea?
It's a horrible idea in every respect. And it's what's amazing about it is that this is the kind of thing that those guys are so good at spinning. Rahm and his advisors will make it sound like they're going to, fund the pension plan, make it all better, remove the pension crisis. And, little does he ignore, or he ignores the fact that you're just borrowing $10 billion from over here, right? And we create a new debt so that we can pay off the other one. It doesn't change the amount of debt we have. And there's a lot of things that are much more pernicious about this deal.
But what he knows is that he's on the clock with the Chicago police and fire pensions that are woefully underfunded, that I've mentioned many times.
They're bankrupt.
Yeah, they're bankrupt. Right.
They're bankrupt.
Chicago police, if you look at their own filings with the Department of Insurance, they will be unable to pay out current beneficiaries in under 3 years by the end of 2021. And everybody likes to deny that, it's not that bad, or they make sort of kind of oblique wave-offs like Tiny Dancer does, like FOP wants to do. But that's the math, and the math is inexorable, and the math doesn't care what your political affiliation is. And Tiny Dancer, with this borrowing scheme, is conceding the point.
Well, what he would do is he would get to say, look, I fixed pensions. They go from 25% funded to 50% funded. Look what I did. I've removed the pension crisis off the problem. And what he would do is, on this borrowing, he would push back the repayment as far as possible. So it's not his problem, but somebody far in the future. And that's exactly what that Blago bond did. It's a 30-year bond deal. We're still paying off that bond. We've hardly paid off any of the debt yet.
Wait, let's get the details on that.
Yeah, so it was a 30-year bond borrowing. And, as of now, I think we've paid off about 1/10 of it. So we still have, after 15 years of that bond being outstanding, we still owe 9/10 of the debt. So, and, that's plus interest. So we're just going to be paying off this bond forever.
So we borrowed $10 billion in 2003, and we owe $13.6 billion at present?
Of principal and interest, correct.
Yeah, and that's 15 years later.
15 years later.
I mean, this is what the state does, right? We're still financing groceries we bought in 1994. It's just everything's on the credit card, and you pay the monthly minimum.
Exactly. Now let's talk about what's really, really bad about this deal. To make it happen, Rahm is, my partner, Mark Lennon, likes to say, he's willing to sell off the body parts of Illinois, of Chicago. He's willing to sell future...
Sell the parking meters again?
Exactly. In this case, we're going to sell future sales tax receipts.
Right.
And we're going to give them away. We're going to sell them off to an entity. And in the case of bankruptcy, that stuff's gone. So we're going to prioritize the bondholders over the citizens if real crisis comes. Just totally unfair, totally wrong.
And, but there's no other way to there's no other way to borrow.
Well, that's the thing. We got to sell body parts in order to borrow.
So, we're literally selling our, kind of to analogize it to the individual, you're selling your blood to keep the lights on.
Exactly. And what's wrong with that is that, It happened with the Skyway, it happened with the parking meters, and now it's happening here. But now they're calling it this securitization, which nobody really knows what it means. But you're taking these future sales tax revenues that should be spent on the city, maybe to help fight crime or schools, and we're giving it away.
And so,
and who knows how we'll spend it, right?
well, right, of course, right. I mean, this is what we've been doing for generations, both parties, Democrats at the city level, Democrats and Republicans at the state level, and this is because there is no appetite or courage to reform any of these systems to change the way they operate. We're not going to do anything with respect to pension benefit levels. We're not going to do anything with respect to salaries and benefits and the expanse and expense of city government either.
Yeah, I mean, what if he said, look, we'll issue $10 billion, but only if we change the system going forward? Now, that might be a little bit more, palatable, but just to borrow to pay off one debt with a different credit card, that's a sin.
Remember when Tiny Dancer came back from D.C. and he was the tough guy? He was going to make all the hard decisions.
Well, what was
7 years in, how's that looking?
Well, in 2011, he came out and said, "I want 401ks for workers." Right? He said, "We got to do something about these colas."
Yeah.
He sounded pretty good.
Uh-huh.
And that's all gone.
Yeah. Another bill of goods sold gleefully and accepted gleefully by not many residents of Chicago.